we've seen in these recent fires is some fairly severe fire effects. I mean, some of that's going to be wind-driven and weather-driven, but it's also driven somewhat by fuels and stand conditions. Now, you add on to that climate change. And climate change, of course, is just bringing in, from a fire risk perspective, the fuels are drier for longer, the days are hotter, you just have more days with conditions for severe burning. Prescribed fire is, intentionally lighting the forest on fire, but we do it on what we call the shoulder season. So in the spring or late fall, where it's a little bit cooler and wetter, so it doesn't burn quite as hot. And then the idea is that as you burn off those fuels, when a wildfire does come in the summer, it just isn't going to burn as severely because it literally doesn't have as much fuel for the fire. Before European Americans arrived, the indigenous people of California really actively managed and tended these landscapes. The most conservative estimates I've seen are that 4.5 million acres burned annually in California. And the point is that these regular fires, in the past, they would sort of clean up the forest floor. They would remove some of that woody debris on the floor, they would thin out some of the trees. This is one of the after effects of colonization, basically. But we forcibly removed Native Americans in many cases from the landscape and effectively halted their practices. So we're literally going in the wrong direction. A good example is that Yosemite, like in the early 2000s, there were something like 3 or 4 permanent staff that were dedicated to what we call fuels management, and then 3 seasonal crews. They're now down to 1 short crew and I think 1 permanent staff member. I mean, you can imagine then what happened to the prescribed fire acres they accomplished. They've gone way down. Coast redwoods can live to be 2,000 years old. But what we've seen in these recent fires is some fairly severe fire effects. And so in some cases, the fire has gotten up into the tree canopy and consumed the entire crown. So if we shift now to looking at the Sierra, where the giant sequoia are, they do not have the capacity to sprout after fire. So once they're gone, they're gone. But there's a sort of this debate between, is it forest management, is it climate change? And it's the silliest debate I've ever heard, because the answer is yes, it's both. It's definitely both are contributing to our issues with fire in forests. So what we really need to see is more significant federal investment, I think, to make the practices that we know we need really widespread.